Hi, my name is Natalie Carcamo. Okay, the introduction. The current situation worldwide is unprecedented. The COVID 19 pandemic has affected many dimensions of life and will undoubtedly have significant secondary effects on the well being of the world population. As we know, at the beginning of February 2020, the Honduran government declared a health emergency due to COVID 19 and dengue. Uh, Thus, the government prepared and implemented several policies during the month of March. Um, it initiated an information campaign offering best practices to prevent the spread of the virus through social distancing measures. And at the beginning of March, airline passengers entering Honduras from high-risk countries were banned from traveling. Schools were ordered to close for 14 days, and meetings of more than 50 people were banned for 14 days. This is how, at the end of March, we started the quarantine. In this video, we intend to talk about the situation in which Honduras had to live in 2020, talk about the possible impact on economic performance and the labor market, as well as provide additional recommendations for how to mitigate the negative effects of the pandemic.
In a context of health and economic crisis caused by the coronavirus disease pandemic, COVID-19, aggravated by the strong negative effect of storms Eta and Iota. The Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean ECLAC estimates that in the 2020 the GDP of Honduras will show a decrease of 8% compared to a growth of 2.7% in 2019. The contraction of the economy is explained by a market decrease in private consumption, the fall in public and private investment, and the collapse of external demand. As of July 2020, a cumulative drop of 40.2% was reported in the textiles and clothing industry. In the machinery and equipment manufacturing activity, the contraction was 27.8%, but behaviors are attributed to the low external demand, coupled with the suspension of work from the second half of March of the companies dedicated to these activities to control the contagion of COVID-19. The document details.
Hello, my name is Fernando Morales. Travel and tourism activities are also important in Honduras and were affected by the rapid reduction in travel around the world. Honduras received a significant number of cruises in the Bay Island, the frequency of which is very likely to be affected during the summer season. Income from travel and tourism activities represent 14.6% of the country's gross domestic product in the sector, employs 542,000 people. With the COVID pandemic, a significant increase of the number of unemployed people is expected. Young people face a high rate of unemployment and underemployment and are more vulnerable to a decrease in the demand for labor, as shown in the aftermath of the last global financial crisis. In addition to the interruption of supplies and the contraction of activities and consumption is a result of the sanitary containment measures. Domestic travel is also affected by the quarantine measures, especially during Holy Week, one of the times when Hondurans make a greater number of domestic trips. We must consider the impact that a decrease on remittances will have on the economy due to the increase in unemployment in the United States. The economy of Honduras is highly dependent on international remittances. These transfers are an important source of foreign exchange for the country.
The pandemic is expected to significantly lower markets, and then going to be generally unhealthy and autumn in 2020 has inflicted approximately 100 countries around the world have adopted some of lower protection in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. At the time of recording this video, Honduras had adopted initial measures regarding for the protection of the labor market aimed at the company and workers. This included tax breaks and a restructuring for a tax payment for Honduran companies, as well as subsidy 6,000 lempiras, approximately $242 for 1 month to suspend former workers who contribute to the security system. Given the evolving nature of the pandemic, additional measures may be necessary in the short term to protect the vulnerable workers. With the objective, some aspects of the labor market in Honduras are described to quantify the size of the vulnerable population and determine if the measure is necessary to protect employment will reach the people who need them most. Although unemployment is relatively low compared to the other Latin American countries, it does not reflect the nuances of the nature to work in Honduras. Approximately 15% of workers are classified as visible unemployment and 22% as invisible unemployment. These figures indicate that a large part of the Honduran workforce depends on the informal economy. Specifically, if a definition of informality is used from the point of view of social security, the number of workers who don't up to date any type of social security system is 82%. This population is very vulnerable since it works outside the contribution system and is not covered by the Honduran labor code. In addition, these 82% of workers were not covered by the 6,000 lempiras subsidy for a month proposed by the government of the county of March 30, 2020. Despite that recommendation to continue working remotely, not all employees can transfer their activities through the virtual environment.
Conclusions. The economy is the main factor for the country's indicators. We all know that the pandemic has caused a great change in national and international trade in such a way that is trying to implement new strategies as well as facilitate trade in vaccines. The primary sector was affected since the producer did not have biosecurity measures. The secondary and tertiary sector was affected and benefited since production was always the same, only with export restrictions. In short, the economic of our country must be motivated again to achieve economic development. According to the results obtained, the contrast of these with studies similar and depending on fulfillment of the objectives of the investigation among the main conclusions that are drawn, it can be mentioned the health crisis to the COVID-19 has impacted households in areas such as employment, income change, entire consumption patterns, which is carried out in accordance with measures imposed by the government and home biosecurity measures. To the above, it is added that work and economic relations have been virtualized that work is done from home and buy products and service only. Of the total number of people who work home, 75% declared in the tier width of the quarantine tab mountain is employment, which indicates that 25 lost their job.
Hello, my name is Daniel Ayala, and well, we believe that we are in the emergency to change our economic system. But why? Well, because during a lot of years, more specific, during the last decade after the COP, we had a lot of bad public policies, destruction of our nature resources, legal and citizen insecurity, and well, we all know about the corruption that we have in our country. In addition to these problems, the current crisis of COVID-19 has produced a profound deterioration in the economic activity. That is the reason that we make a couple of recommendations to affront this problem. We think that the private sector needs to provide efficiently goods and services, such as medical devices, medicines, food, financial services, vacuums too. Also, is necessary digital tools to the citizens. This is because we need to be informed and connected. Another one is to relieve the economic impact of the pandemic, particularly to support the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. This will help to protect jobs and lay the groundwork for a strong economic recovery. Another one can be that the government needs to ensure that trade and investment to flow and continue without interruptions, as well as protect global and regional supply chains. We think that it's very important the creation of a massive program of rapid tests and the trace point, like the one that is in the Olympic and that one. This will help us to control and care of possible victims of infection in the informal market and also in the micro and the medium enterprises, and get sure if an enterprise can give their employees vacuums, encourage them to make that.
Hello, my name is Eunice Espinosa. The FDH recommends in the state of Honduras sensitive that to did COVID-11-12, the DRIP Project Center reading in the programs and the of project of corporate social responsibility towards and the provision of free connectivity and net pensions, computers and tablets to children, and use of the Honduran public sector to make and the common from which in the stage in the stranded than system national public educational. The big private telecommunication companies and operate in the country. Local first connectivity alternative in the homes which left income free of charge. I am term providing and the party keep offer education woman and the student. That the Minister of Education and the Girl Secretary of State on Office of Public Education guarantee on the free day of class after a crisis. 18 in a school in the country can have the supplement for me, a snack and a school lunch. That each educational institution and the return in the activities institutionalized that the action then correspondent and the winning in the strategic flag on education sector. That did government and establish if necessary measures so that enhance personnel and people, most especially and the bureaus have bioseverity ekim to also that says that lives And the manager, I am a cooperation action will which filtering countries. Thank you.